Reddit, what's something you can't unsee once someone points it out? In this case, more like unhear. Breathing in songs. Once you start paying attention to it, you can't hear anything else. In every movie set before the date of production, e.g. the first Captain America movie filmed in the 2000s but set in the 40s, all cars are immaculately polished and painted. Not a single car will be rusty or dirty, unless the script specifically calls for it, most likely because these cars will no doubt be on loan from a car collector who would put a lot of effort into polishing them and would scarcely drive them. In movies, where a character has their back to the camera, and what they're saying doesn't sync at all with the movement of their mouth/jaw. I'm not sure if I just started noticing this within the past few years or movie studios are getting lazier, but it has become so obvious and takes me right out of the movie/show. Bodybuilders look like a normal guy coming out of a muscular guy's neck. If you go to the movie theater, there's a little green laser dot on the screen that I think is used to line up the projector with the screen. It's really tiny, but once you notice it you won't stop looking at it. Edit, I am sorry. Some guy was in a bathroom stall at the movie theater while I was pissing at the urinal. I guess he didn't know I was there. He starts singing away to himself, to the tune of Hall & Oates, because your piss, is on my wrist, because your piss is on my wrist, when I turn out the lights. I burst out laughing. Now I can't hear that song for the rest of my life without singing that dude's alternate lyrics. The twat in Weight Watchers when they rebranded. Whenever the letters OGC get together and look like a man holding his penis. Kerning. My kids still curse me for explaining kerning to them. Now every time they see a sign, they see bad letter spacing. Some sort of unique facial/head feature of another person. Take ears for example. I was watching baseball the other day and my so pointed out the pitcher's ears seemed to stick straight out. For the rest of the game, all I noticed were his flapping wing ears. In Batman Begins, when he headbutts Falcons, something white bounces away from between them. I have analyzed it to death. Is it a cotton ball? A ping pong ball? Cocaine? What is it? Also the mole by Christian Bale's right eye. Tom Cruise's middle tooth. Edit, oh. Shiny silver. Thanks. Just how many films made the past 15 years or so all use orange and teal as their default color scheme for scenes? Small mess UPS in movies, a boom microphone that made it into the shot, the shadow of the helicopter that the camera is on, a car in the background of a movie that takes place way before cars existed, etc. The faceplates on outlets and light switch covers if installed by a professional will have the slots in the screws vertical and aligned. They call it squaring up. If they're not, either it was installed by an amateur or someone took it off to paint or something. In Super Mario Bros. For the NES the clouds are the same graphic as the bushes, just a different color. My mom said that these kiwis we bought looked like old man balls. I can never eat them again. When the sound of a movie is slightly off sync with the picture. The fake bird noises in golf coverage. They are all fake and constant. When I look at newer Toyota trucks with the TRD, Toyota Racing Development, I see the word turd. I can't help it. Edit, I love Toyotas and drive one myself, but if I got a newer truck, I would scrape off the TRD sticker. A small dent in your car, usually on the door. You can't spot it, but if someone mentions it, you can't unsee it. Because Bruno Mars is so much shorter than Mark Ronson, in the Uptown Funk video they are never shown standing next to each other in the same frame. One is always sitting/leaning on a car. That coffee cups, particularly the styrofoam kind you'd get coffee to go in movies and television are always empty, and because of that the actors flop and fling the damn things around so much they'd be getting coffee everywhere if there was actually coffee in them. It's so minor, but now that I know I notice it and it's super annoying. Much in the same way it's annoying how guns can shoot like 50 bullets when they clearly have a magazine that tops holds maybe 10 bullets. The hand on the velociraptor's tail keeping it in balance in the first Jurassic Park movie. This is more of a once you hear it thing, but at the 6-minute mark of Right Into by Tool the guitar sounds like Timmy from South Park saying his name. Back when Everyone Loves Raymond was popular, a friend of mine said that every episode was just Ray doing something stupid and then his wife would yell at him. I stopped watching it shortly after. Same thing happened with Home Improvement. The amount of times someone says or like while speaking. It's hard not to count or focus on it, especially when the subject matter isn't very interesting. The word fridge has a D in it but not the word refrigerator. I'll add a couple. A woman's boobs and belly button looks like eyes and a surprised mouth. Welcome to my hell. People don't drive down the road constantly moving their steering wheel back and forth. Drives me crazy when I see it in movies/TV. That your personal reality is a bubble of awareness through which people come and go. And you have no clue what's really going on outside of this bubble. No one experiences this bubble but you. There is no proof that anything exists outside of this bubble. There's a scene in the Titanic where Jack and Rose are running from the asshole with a gun, can't remember his name, SKSJSJ, and in one of the shots where they run through a doorway you can see one of the set lights in the final cut through a glass window. You'll look for it each time. If you list all of the months in order with just the first letter of the month, the name Jason is written in there. JFMAMJJASOND. A cat's butthole. Yep, that little thing never stops staring back at me. My friend was painting a crouching man for her art exam. She was shading the ass so much that she didn't even notice that the ass was in front of the guy's legs. It actually seems perfectly normal at first, but after someone pointed it out, you couldn't unsee it. The fact that Kristen Stewart, girl from Twilight Saga, never closes her mouth. Same with fingers moving up and down the strings on certain acoustic songs. I like the breathing. It's part of the music. What I dislike is when they cut the breath and it sounds inhuman. Matt Bellamy from Muse with his frequent sharp inhales. I ruined this band for my wife by pointing it out to her. I've been watching videos of extras clapping for the past 10 minutes. This is amazing. Here's another about filmmaking. Streets are almost always wet in scenes featuring sidewalks or roads. The wetness eliminates shadows from the equipment and multiple light sources used on set. Edit, it's called a wet down. I was an extra in a pool hall scene once. All the balls on about 20 pool tables were replaced with rubber balls. So a room full of people playing pool was totally quiet. Thing is, cupping your hands can also make much more noise when you do it right. The one that I always catch, the X marks the spot for that shot. When the lead is walking and they stop, they have to be in the perfect spot to get the shot. If you watch them and see what they're looking at, you will see them looking down to make sure they are standing on that X taped to the ground. Hate myself since I have started noticing this. It's all I see now. They try to hide it and some actors/actresses are good at it, but they all slip up sometimes. And often they are only of that immediate time period. Like, a film set in 1945 will have 1940s cars. But, as we know from driving around, people drive cars for years. There should lots of post-1940 cars, a good share of cars from 1930s, and a handful of cars from 1920s. My dad used to collect cars and he points this out all the time. Sometimes, he pulls up photos to prove his point. A friend of mine has an old Cadillac that he restored. He signed up for the car to be available for movies. They used his car in a movie that called for the car to be dirty. They dirtied up the car and filmed the scene and then washed it for him, but whatever they used to dirty the car didn't come completely off. They paid him a couple grand to get the car repainted. He restored and painted it in the first place, so he just compounded it, waxed it, and it looked good as new. New cars are usually like this, too. Dirt smudges can cause continuity errors. It's definitely gotten worse, and it annoys me constantly. I also think there's some inside joke with the coffee cups. It really can't just be lack of effort anymore. It's like they're intentionally flinging empty cups around. Bad ADR is something I always notice now, when the mouth's movements aren't the same as the dialogue, sometimes completely different dialogue. Or when a line gets added and the mix is bad, it sounds completely out of place. I don't even watch the person talking anymore. I've noticed it for years now, so it's not all that new, but I do think it's worse now. The latest season of Arrested Development was so fucking horrible with this. I could barely watch it because of that. I think they had to rewrite the whole story for some reason, and instead of reshooting they just poorly edited some stuff in front of people's mouths and made sure most characters were speaking from behind and horribly dubbed their lines. I notice this in Arrested Development a lot. I think they probably do a ton of takes and it's just impossible for all the shots to match. Scooby 1961 on YouTube is an example. If you don't also train your neck, it doesn't matter how jacked you are, you'll end up looking like you're playing life with an inverse big head cheat code on. Medication commercials are so obnoxiously unnecessary. No reason for the end consumer to see that stuff. Leave it to medical professionals. Edit. Imo. The entire idea of commercialized healthcare seems absurd. Or the black oval in the corner when they change out the next roll of film. After Fight Club I couldn't stop looking for cigarette burns. But these days there aren't any now that theaters are digital too. They hide secret little dot patterns into movies, so if a cam rip or something shows up, they have an idea of where it was recorded. At least they used to, maybe that's not a thing anymore. It was originally an accident, but they kept the scene and even added a sound effect to it. Before the special editions, it was cropped to fit on old CRT TVs, which is pretty much the only way I ever saw it. That part was cropped out. I watched that move 100 times as a kid and never saw that actual bop until 1997 when the special edition was in theaters. I'm usually okay with people's nervous tics, but when they have a lot of verbal pauses / non-words it is really distracting to me. Then I start to count them. The last time I did it the person had 184 non-words in the course of 15 minutes. Or just a repetitive anything during a presentation. The principal of the local high school says at this time constantly when presiding over graduations. Every time he steps to the podium he says it, and he does it every time he moves on to another award or subject as he speaks. It's mind-boggling. The phrase is unnecessary and redundant. What? I'll, let you know that, we can hide our, tics, very well, thank you very much. The worst I ever witnessed, a classmate kept tripping over his words, coming too quick, staccato stops every now and then. It wouldn't have been a big deal except he stopped, looked up from his notes, and apologized. He said, "Excuse me, but I made the mistake of brushing my teeth this morning, and now my tongue keeps getting stuck on them." For the longest time growing up, I thought the name of the band was Holland Oates, like Quaker Oats but from Holland. To the tune of Starships We Built This City, but a bit more vulgar. My dick's all shitty, my dick's all shitty. My dick's all shitty from your asshole. I do the same with Free Fallin'. Always sing it as Free Ballin'. My first thought was Oprah is not a twat. Now I can't unsee it. Good kerning is the difference between massage therapist and massage the rapist. I thought it was called chemming all this time because of the subreddit. I hate the truck driving by stock sound. With the horn blowing and Doppler effect. One quick honk then one long Doppler honk. Honk hoo. I always hear it and it bugs me how all trucks honk the same. I appreciate the little Easter egg, but it gets super annoying when you're in the middle of a dramatic fight scene, and that dumb scream happens. There's a stock horse sound that God uses all the time. Can't not hear it? It's a piece of glass from the sunroof. You can see it on his left shoulder right next to the collar when he is facing the camera just before the hit. Something else about Christian Bale. Watch how he shapes his lips when he does an American accent. I don't focus on this tooth, I focus on that his lips are never closed. He has resting mouth breathing face. I believe correct usage depends who you ask, but I was taught that in this context the period indicates truncation, and dr is not truncated. Professor is fine, but mr and dr aren't truncated, so should not have the period. Document, major, general, PC are all fine. Schwarzenegger is interesting because if you divide it in two, Schwarz means black, and the second part means the second part. This will properly fuck you up. You'll be watching a fun yarn, then you'll notice the color of the sofa is off, and then you realize everything is teal and orange. Your viewing experience is completely ruined. Every concert I go to now has pink and teal lighting. Country, rock, pop, they all overuse it. If this bothers you, do not watch AP Bio. Really funny show, but it's literally all teal. Every goddamn scene. I always look at the level of liquid in someone's drink, to see if it fluctuates back and forth throughout a scene. Or just watch the extras in the background of a fight scene. They are usually just like almost touching each other, usually smiling, looking fucking stupid. Dance scenes in nightclubs are the same too. In the scene where Harry and his class are introduced to Buckbeak, the hippogriff poops. I'm not sure if they used a horse as a stand-in and it actually pooped, or if the VFX peeps just felt like adding it in. But it's totally there. A paper coffee cup, or water bottle just chilling in the background. Looking at you got. The best one was Stargate Atlantis. They were on a budget for the first season. At the end, Atlantis is being hit by a hurricane, so to simulate wind in the background you can see someone grab a small tree and shake it vigorously outside a window. It's also not just in one scene either, it's in a lot. That's cool. I did this when I replaced ours, but I was just being anal about it. I used to know a guy who worked as a carman for the railway. His job included installing seats and interior fittings in passenger cars. Anyway, he told me the same thing. If he was installing something with screws, all the screw slots had to line up. Both he and I thought it was sort of crazy, but I guess it might make things look more clean and finished. I don't think I'd notice. I'm a superintendent for a hotel developer, and this is one way I judge a good finish electrician from a bad, among a few other things. You made me check all the light switches and power outlets in my house, and almost every one I found had the screws horizontal or diagonal, and only a couple had them aligned. This is really gonna bug me now. When I was an electrician, this was standard for everything we did. Besides looking nice, it made it easy to tell when someone else had taken the cover off, and most likely did something to the switch/outlet. Had a few service calls where the electric randomly stopped working, and when you saw that sideways screw you knew either the homeowner or someone else had messed with it. Yep. When you look at English words, or words in Latin characters, you see the words. When you look at a language like Chinese, assuming you don't know Chinese, you see shapes and lines. Once you know a language, you can't unknow it even on purpose. My local cinema actually turns off the exit signs before the movie starts. Should an emergency arise, they are set up to turn on again immediately. Makes the cinema experience greater. I hate licorice flavored things, drank root beer my entire life and never tasted it until someone pointed out they don't like it because of the licorice aftertaste. I had the same revelation, but it only took root beer down one notch for me overall and is still my favorite soda. Player 2 can also control the bird's movement to challenge Player 1 in Duck Hunt. Don't forget the guy rubbing his ass on the carpet like a dog. And not sitting down, not merely pooping. Shooting poop out his ass. For me, anytime I see LOL. I brings to mind someone drowning. LOL. They put a goddamn woodpecker in the Saturday round of the championship last weekend. A fucking woodpecker. It was super annoying. Back in the 90s my aunt swore she saw broccoli on the tire cover of an SUV. It was a Bronco too. Co-worker of mine one bought a Toyota Tacoma TRD, and got a center brake light cover that said TRD Taco. It was awesome. That noise combined with his weird dance shimmy have got me cracking up. I fucking knew this would be in this thread, that bit makes me crack up every time I watch it. Movie Mort in general was super not intimidating. Suit Voldemort on the train station, Shas hang in Harry's cloud brain, Yavada Kedavra in the last movie, it was just never super scary. The only times I was actually impressed by him were the Ministry fight and when he takes Luscious Wand. Empty cups is way too obvious. They should put a weight in there or something. This is super interesting to me. I assume because it's public domain so it's easy to just shuffle in instead of composing an original piece? Have any more like this where a melody keeps getting recycled in film? Okay, now that I hear it I'm convinced that they actually put a snippet of Timmy in that song just to fuck with us.